Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about topic one, which is privacy principles and regulation, the Fair Information Practice Principle, FIPPs. My name is Akash Patel from Grand Canyon University. We'll be, I'll go through this quick presentation which I created regarding FIPPs. So these days, almost all entities on the internet need to have a privacy policy. Consumer privacy laws are quick growing in numbers and strength. Both consumers and business partners are now expected to tell how their personal data is used and guarded. In this presentation, I'm going to describe to you my understanding of FIPPs, which is one of the privacy policies. Compare it to other privacy policies and outline its application to protect protection of personally identifiable information, PIIs. The Fair Information Practice Principles, FIPPs. The Fair Information Practice Principles are the framework of privacy policy at the Department of Homeland Security. The FIPPs provide the foundation principles of privacy policy and guidepost for their implementation at Department of Homeland Security. The FIPP's fact sheet provides examples of how FIPPs are implemented at Department of Homeland Security. The Fair Information Practice Principle, it's divided there's so many points, but we'll talk about the collection limitation principle, the data quality principle, the purpose specification principle, and the use limitation principle, and the security safeguard principle. Talking about the collection limitation principle, there should be limits to the collection of personal data and any such data such as obtained by lawful and fair means, and where appropriate with the knowledge of consent of data subject. The data quality principle. The personal data should be relevant to purposes for which they are to be used, and the extent necessary for those purposes should be accurate, complete, and kept up to date. The purpose of specification principle. The purposes of which personal data are collected should be specified not later than at the time of data collection, and the subsequent use limited to fulfillment of those purposes, or such others are to be compatible with those purposes as are specified on each occasion of change of purpose. The use limitation principle. The personal data should not be disclosed, made available, or otherwise used for purposes other than those specified, except with the consent of the data subject or by the authority of law. The security safeguard principle. The personal data should be protected by reasonable security safeguard against such risk as loss or unauthorized access, destruction, use, modification, or disclosure of data. Talking about the Fair Information Practice Principle, the Openness Principles, there should be general policy of openness about developments, practices, policies with respect to personal data. Means should be really ability of establishing the existence of nature of personal data, the main purpose of their use, as well as identity and user residence of data controller. The individual participation principle, as individuals should have the right to obtain from data controller or otherwise confirmation of whether or not the data controller has data related to him. To have data related to him communicated to him within a reasonable time at a change, if any, that is accessed in a reasonable manner and in form of readily intelligible to him. To be given reasons if a request made under subparagraph A and B is denied and able to challenge such denial, the challenged data related to him, and if challenged is successful, to have data erased, rectified, completed, or amended. The accountability principle: the data controller should be accountable for complying with measures which give effect to the principle stated above. Talking about how FIPPs are compared to other privacy policies, laws, and regulation. In general, the data protection regulation is the newest regulation in European Union law on data protection and privacy. The data principle on GDPR are lawfulness, fairness, and transparency purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage, limitations, security, accountability, while a fair information practice principle and the framework for the privacy policies. The key principles are transparency, individual, practical purpose, data minimization, use limitation, and data quantity, integrity, security, accountability, and auditing. We in United States, we have the California Consumer Privacy Act, which is a state statute enhanced privacy rights and consumer protection for residents of California, while FIPPs are established to support professional development by ensuring intosai development, a clear, consistent set of professional pronouncements for public sector auditing, as well as the Federal Trade Commission has a fair information practical policies are recommendation through not legally enforced for maintaining policies, privacy friendly policies, and consumer oriented data. There are certain outlines given by the Congress for which are the core principles of the policies, which are notice awareness, choice, consent, access, participation, and integrity security. While the key principle of FIPPs are transparency, individual participation, purpose, specification, data minimization, use limitation, and data quantity and integrity, security, accountability, and auditing. Talking about how FIPPs compare to other privacy policies, laws, and regulation. Well, the Children Outline Privacy Policy Act protect the personal information of children under 13, while fair information practical policies are guidelines that represent widely acceptable concepts and concerning fair information practice in an electronic marketplace. The Graham-Blechy Act, which is required financial institution to explain the information setting practices. So all those information we see on the paperwork from the companies, the long line list, they are required to each and every customer, such as in medical we see HIPAA, in telephone communication industry we see the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, TCPA. So these are all related to or correlated to FIPPs. Application of FIPPs in protection of PII That will be transparency, individual participation, purpose, specification, data minimization. There should be transparent and provide notice to the individual regarding the collection, use, and dissemination and maintenance of personal identification information. Individuals are involved to seek individual consent to collection. They're required to get our consent to collect our data or any information. Mining the direct, relevant, and necessary incomplete specific purpose and other related PII as long as it's necessary to fulfill the specified purposes. Last but not least, the participation of FIPPs in protection of PII. The limitations are its solely purpose to specify notice, then you should send the notice. Sharing PII outside the department should be for purpose compliant with the purpose of which PII was collected. Security. The data quality and integrity DSS should be practicable, ensure that PII is accurate, relevant, timely, and complete. Security and unauthorized access of use, destruction, modification, or inappropriate through the PII should through appropriate security safeguard against risk and loss. DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, should be accountable for complying with principles, providing training to all employees and contractors who use PII, and auditing the actual use of PII to demonstrate compliance and these principles and the participant protection requirements. Thank you, everyone. That's it about the PIIs and FIPPs, and see you on next topic.